Amazon has ordered 100,000 electric vans from Michigan-based startup Rivian, which will eventually drive themselves. And in June 2020, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos spent an estimated $1.2 billion to purchase an entire autonomous vehicle company called Zoox. The Wall Street Journal said the plan for Zoox is to continue development of its robot taxi, an electric vehicle that it has been working on, with Amazon investing money in Zoox so it can deploy these vehicles. Waymo ordered 62,000 self-driving Pacifica minivans to be on the road starting in 2020. Qualcomm is working with Lincoln on the self-driving MKZ, which debuted at the recent Consumer Electronics Show I attended in Vegas. Intel has partnered with BMW, Nissan, Volkswagen, and Ferrari North America on autonomous vehicles. NVIDIA has partnered with Toyota, Audi, Mercedes, Volvo, and many more. Baidu, the Google of China, has partnered with Ford, BMW, Daimler, Chrysler, and dozens more. Apple invested $1 billion in the ride-hailing service Didi Chuxing. GM invested $500 million in Lyft. Google has invested billions in Waymo. Their purchase of 62,000 self-driving Chrysler minivans alone cost about $2.8 billion. Why? Because as the firm ARK Invest recently reported, this is a $10 trillion market opportunity. A study by Intel, the world's largest maker of computer chips, has even more staggering predictions. They say the market for driverless vehicles, including trucks, buses, and delivery vans, will eventually hit $7 trillion per year. The point is, there's simply nothing bigger than this in the investment world. That's why the money is pouring into this space. And that's why every single day, new breakthroughs, partnerships, and deals are announced. In San Francisco, a General Motors self-driving car called Cruise safely drives the streets, making 1,400 left turns every single day to perfect the technology. The state of California just approved autonomous delivery vehicles for things like pizza and groceries. And a company called Plus AI just completed America's first coast-to-coast commercial freight run with an autonomous truck. The trip covered 2,800 miles through rain and snow, including 11,000 feet of elevation in the Colorado Rockies, traveling from California to Pennsylvania in less than 3 days. And this is just in America. In many places around the world, autonomous vehicles are advancing even more quickly than here at home. In China, the country's leading autonomous driving company called WeRide has just announced the first program in one of China's biggest cities. Dozens of WeRide's robo-taxis are providing rides in a very congested 144 square kilometer area. You can hail a ride in one of these robo-taxis with the app called WeRide Go. China is not only the world's fastest growing car market, it's also the #1 seller of electric cars. In Singapore, the local government announced that the entire western part of the country will be opened up to autonomous vehicles. It's all moving incredibly fast, and the money to be made is extraordinary. If you want to see one simple stat that sums up how quickly this technology is improving and how fast it's moving, check this out. Waymo announced recently that it took 10 years to reach 10 million miles of autonomous cars on public roads. But the next 10 million miles took just a single year. My point is, autonomous vehicles are not the future, they are here right now. Yes, today they exist in only a few cities, in limited geofenced locations, but this is going to expand rapidly. Geofencing, if you're not familiar with the term, allows autonomous vehicle companies to create a virtual boundary, a GPS perimeter beyond which vehicles can't go. This allows companies to have the confidence their vehicles can safely navigate the area where they are allowed. Over time, the geofenced areas get bigger and bigger until eventually autonomous vehicles can cover entire cities and eventually the entire country. This is why the first time you see autonomous cars come to your hometown, they won't be driving everywhere. Instead, they'll be geofenced, limited to certain areas. You might first be able to get an autonomous vehicle at your local airport, for example, which might take you to 100 different drop-off points. Or you first might be able to use an autonomous vehicle in a certain part of downtown. This is how autonomous vehicles are operating right now in California, Arizona, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida, and Washington, D.C. But there's another point you have to understand too. Even though this trend may take a few years to roll out, if you want to capture the biggest investment gains, you must act now. Already, early investors are getting rich. Look at some of these recent results. Aptiv, with 70,000 autonomous taxis in Vegas, is up 450% since November 2011. NVIDIA, the leading AV chip maker, is up 24% since August 2014. Intel, the CPU manufacturer and owner of Mobileye, is up almost 300% since 2012. And as I mentioned earlier, an investment frenzy has begun in recent weeks. Electric truck maker Nikola recently soared 104% in a single day. Spartan Energy shot up 71% in 2 days. Visteon is up almost 80% in 3 months. And Tesla is up 260% since the start of 2020. And the electric delivery van firm Workhorse is up more than 500% in less than 2 months. The time to get in is now. And to position yourself properly, I strongly suggest you make 4 investments immediately. Remember, at the beginning of this presentation, I told you I'd give you the name and ticker of a fantastic TaaS company you should buy right away. That company is Waymo, which by most accounts is the leader in autonomous vehicles. Waymo is owned by Google, known now as Alphabet, and they are the clear leaders in this space. Look at this chart. Waymo has driven more autonomous miles than anyone else in the real world, more than 20 million miles as of today. As I mentioned earlier, Waymo has already launched an autonomous vehicle ride-hailing service in Arizona called Waymo One. And to expand their services, Waymo has purchased up to 62,000 self-driving Chrysler minivans. They are working with Jaguar to build up to 20,000 self-driving SUVs. Morgan Stanley values Waymo at more than $100 billion. Eventually, we think it will be spun out of Alphabet, the parent company of Google, and become its own company. What makes this such a great investment is that you can buy Alphabet today, which is a great cash-gushing business, and pay essentially nothing for Waymo. When shares are spun out over the next few years, you stand to profit in an enormous way. In other words, buying Waymo right now is an incredibly safe way to invest in the TaaS revolution that's just now hitting a tipping point. So that's the first investment you should make. Buy Waymo by purchasing shares of Alphabet, which owns 100% of Waymo. The stock symbol is Google, G-O-O-G-L, and I recommend that you not pay more than $1,800 per share. But here's the thing, that's a lot of money for a single share, and big gains here are likely to take at least a few years to play out. The good news is there are several other ways to make a lot more money more quickly. And that brings me to investment number 2. The best thing you can do as an investor is position yourself in front of a massive, inevitable, and booming trend, one that looks like this. Although you won't find this reported in many places, sales of electric cars are going to be up about 60% a year and will increase by more than 700% over the next decade. According to Bloomberg, there will be 500 EV models available worldwide by 2022. This is an amazing boom quietly taking place. Like the boom that took place with smartphones beginning in 2007, EVs are already a superior technology with rapidly declining prices. As a bonus, they are also being mandated by governments around the world. In at least 13 countries around the world, they've announced plans to phase out gas-powered vehicles, including China, France, and Canada. Britain, for example, has just pledged to eventually ban sales of all cars except electric vehicles. Think about that. No new gasoline, diesel, or hybrid cars will be allowed to be sold, period. And this trend is going to play out much faster than most people expect. Electric vehicles will soon account for more than half of the North American and European car markets in just 5 years or less. And sooner than most people think, electric vehicles will account for 100% of all new car sales in America. As I've said, we are just starting to see an investment frenzy in this space. Tesla stock has been skyrocketing all year. Electric car maker Nikola recently shot up 100% in a single day, and electric delivery van manufacturer Workhorse is up more than 500% in less than 2 months. The key to making a fortune in this space is not to try and guess which company will win. Remember, in addition to Tesla, GM, Ford, and other US manufacturers, there are some 400 electric car makers in China alone. And my auto industry expert tells me another 200 electric models are scheduled to be available in the next 36 months. That's why the absolute best thing you can do is to simply take a significant stake in the best technology and the critical components that every electric car uses. Luckily for you and me, there's a very simple and easy way to do that with one simple investment. It lets you own the best electric car technology and the components every electric car needs, It's the perfect way to invest in the booming future for electric cars. This investment is up 60% since last summer. It's up more than 130% since the start of 2016, and I expect it to absolutely soar in value in the years to come. In my new report called The Number One Way to Profit on the Electric Vehicle Boom, I'll give you all the details, including the name of this investment, the ticker symbol, and my instructions on how to get in at the best possible price. I'll tell you exactly what price to pay, but I can't give that information out here in this presentation. And that brings me to investment number 3. Driverless vehicles are becoming a reality today because of a dramatic confluence of many technologies. Computing power, cameras, sensors, laser rangefinders called LiDAR, GPS, and artificial intelligence software, just to name a few. But my team and I believe there are 2 companies responsible for by far the most critical components for the best self-driving cars. The first company makes the most technologically advanced brain and nervous system for autonomous vehicles. This firm has already partnered with many of the leading companies in this space, including BMW, Hyundai, Audi, Intel, and Lyft, just to name a few. This technology helped complete the longest automated drive ever from San Francisco to New York City, and was selected by one national government to be the technology behind a country's autonomous taxis set to hit the road in 2022. This stock is still a great bargain today, and I strongly recommend you take a stake. I think you could make many times your money in the next few years. The other key technology you want to own in the driverless technology space is the company that provides the computing power for many of today's driverless vehicles. This is critical for every autonomous vehicle. Already, this company has partnered with many of the world's leading vehicle manufacturers like Toyota, Volkswagen, Mercedes, and Volvo, plus trucking companies like Peterbilt and Kenworth, auto parts makers like Bosch and Continental, tech firms like Sony and Panasonic, and research institutions like Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon, MIT, and Stanford. Again, you want to own this company starting immediately because you could make many times your money in the next few years. By simply owning these 2 companies, I think you could make a fortune as autonomous vehicles are rolled out all over the world. Remember, the best thing you can do as an investor is to position yourself in front of a massive, inevitable trend, and then just sit back and enjoy the spectacular ride. This is how I made a fortune with Netflix. It's how I made a killing with Amazon. It's how I made a small fortune with JetBlue Airways, Berkshire Hathaway, and more. In my new report called The 2 Critical Driverless Technologies You Must Own Today, I'll explain everything you need to know. There's no doubt in my mind these investment recommendations could become among the most profitable of my career. But again, I just can't give away this secret right here in this video. Here's why. For nearly 20 years, I worked as a hedge fund manager in Manhattan. My clients were some of the wealthiest people in the world. A handful were billionaires with access to the best Wall Street hedge funds. But rather than start another hedge fund, I've decided to do something different. I'm now taking a very different approach, launching a project that can benefit people from all walks of life. Teachers, doctors, lawyers, small business owners, retirees, you name it. My new business, Empire Financial Research, is based in New York City. I've teamed up with a group of fellow Wall Street veterans to find safe and profitable investment ideas, many of which you've probably never heard of and aren't likely to hear about anywhere else. We're an independent publisher of financial research, which means we don't own or trade the stocks we recommend, and we don't accept advertising. The only way we can stay in business is by giving you great ideas and advice so you can have a chance to achieve great investing results. To me, this just feels like a much better business model compared to charging exorbitant fees to a handful of already wealthy people. And part of the reason I made this switch is because today I want to share my best ideas with like-minded folks from all walks of life. This has always been important to me. I didn't come from money, and I'm still one of the most frugal people you'll ever meet. For example, I'm sure I was the only guy from my Harvard Business School class to spend a night in a youth hostel at a recent meetup. I was also one of the founders of Teach for America, served on the boards of more than a dozen nonprofits, taught introductory economics to high school and college students, and won the John Whitehead Social Enterprise Award from the Harvard Business School Club of New York. The point is, as part of my new venture, you can access my best ideas at a fraction of what you used to have to pay me as a hedge fund manager. You don't have to pay me the 2% of assets and 20% of profits fees that hedge funds typically charge. you don't have to pay the $5,000 I've charged for a single investing seminar. Today, access to my best money-making ideas comes at a pittance. It's the best bargain on or off Wall Street. Before I give you the pricing details and show you how to get started, let me tell you about one final TaaS investment I think you should make immediately to take advantage of the massive opportunity before us today. There's one more TaaS investment my team uncovered recently, which we strongly recommend you make right away. It's a small company you've almost certainly never heard of. You have to take an extra step or two to buy it, but we think it will be well worth it. In short, this company's technology is needed in all self-driving and autonomous cars. And right now, the small company's materials are used in 20% of the entire global market. If we're right about our projections, this company's revenue could quadruple over the next 5 years. And if that plays out as we expect, you will likely make an absolute killing. Since the beginning of last year, the stock price has jumped almost 40%, but we think it has much, much higher to go. And like I said, I would bet just about anything you've never heard of it. I'd never heard of it either until my team brought it to my attention. What's great is this is a well-established, already profitable company, which happens to be in the exact right place at the exact right time, as its technology is now critical for electric and self-driving cars. I love this investment because there's a good chance one of two things will happen in the next few years. The share price will continue to soar much higher, or the company will get bought out at a significant premium. Either way, you win. Of course, all investments carry risk, and this, like my other recommendations, is no exception. Past performance also doesn't guarantee success, and this speculation may not be for everyone. You could do just fine by putting your money in the other investments I've already told you about so far, but we think this speculation is one worth taking. That's why we just put everything you need to know in a new special report called the TaaS Speculation: How to Quadruple Your Money in the Next Few Years.